What's more important than your wealth? But the question is, can you afford what's more important than your wealth? And today we're talking about a very important subject. It's a thing called your health. And as you know, health can be extremely expensive. And I was watching the financial show this morning, and they had some college professor talking about how much it costs to stay alive. And they said towards the end of a person's life, it may take as much as $275,000 minimum for them to stay alive. In other words, if you don't have $275,000 when the time of death comes around, you're going to be thrown on the streets, or something's going to happen to you, and we don't know. So we're going to find out what happens to you. But more importantly than how much it's going to cost is how can you take care of yourself before it gets really expensive. And I don't know about you, but I had kind of a negative thought on the healthcare system. It's really about wealth care. It's really about how much money can the pharmaceutical companies make, the investors make, and all this, even though it means the average person is screwed, that they're not going to get the health they deserve. Like I was looking at some drug, it costs in America $75,000, but it only costs $10,000 in another place. You know what I mean? That the cost differentials are so high in America. So what we're saying is our whole medical pharmaceutical system actually screws its own people, makes it harder to be healthy. So today we're going to be talking about health and not so much medicine, because health really doesn't cost that much money. Any comments, Kim?
Well, here's one statistic that has come out recently, is that medical bankruptcy is the number one cause of personal bankruptcy in the U.S. People get sick, they can't pay their bills, they go into debt, they have to go into personal bankruptcy. So I'm all for how do you not get sick? How do you stay healthy? And here's what's going to be exciting with our guest today is we're going to talk about things that you can do today to be healthy that actually don't cost anything and can save you millions of dollars in the future. So it's an exciting show, and it's all about you.
So today our guest, he's a very popular guest in our program. He's our personal physician. He's Dr. Radha Gopalan, medical doctor. He is a cardiologist at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. He's also associate professor of cardiology at Mount Sinai. And Kim and I first met Radha here in Phoenix, Arizona, because I was about to go under open heart surgery. And you want to tell that story, Kim? Because we didn't know how do you find somebody who's going to rip open your chest, open up the chest cavity, pull your ribs apart, and go in there and mess with your heart? Probably a more complex muscle system, or what do you want to call it, than the brain. I mean, the heart is extremely complex because that's where your emotions are held. Heart attacks. You have a heart attack every time you get some bad news. You take it into your heart, and they don't kill you, but they're just little heart attacks, bad news, upsets.
Eventually, they can kill you.
Doubts, yeah. So when I had a very bad heart, and the reason was I think my mother had rheumatic fever, and so I had bad valves. So my heart had gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point is I really needed valve surgery.
Remember you're being the very, let's get it done. You were ready to just jump on a plane, and you look somebody up on a website.
No,
and
Craigslist.
And you're going to go to San Francisco, and you're going to get there. And our friend, a chiropractor, said, whoa, slow down. You got to find the right person. You got to find the person that fits your philosophy on health.
That's a very important thing. If you're a doctor and you are not of the same philosophy on health, get another doctor, right, Kim?
Right. And that was the biggest point for us. And so our friend called this gentleman, a doctor in London named Ravi, and said, Ravi, Robert's willing to travel anywhere in the world, anywhere. Who's the best person to do this heart surgery? And Ravi started laughing because he knew that we lived in Phoenix. And he goes, he just moved to Phoenix, Arizona 3 months ago. And his name is Dr. Radha Gopalan.
And so that's how our relationship began, and it's been a fabulous relationship after that. Interestingly enough, when I first sat down with Radha, he had just signed up for a Rich Dad education course, and he had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad on the fly running through an airport.
So we immediately loved him.
Yeah, so there is a God someplace. You know what I mean? There is magic out there in the universe. And I actually sincerely believe that God or the Spirit sent Radha to us.
Yes.
And that's why the whole message here is don't go to anybody, go to somebody that you're philosophically and spiritually aligned to. So with that, Radha is here to talk about basically his new book. Is called A Second Opinion, 8 Deadly Diseases.
And it's about Western and Eastern medicine and power. You call it power,
right.
And blending those three together. So welcome to the show, Dr. Radha.
And one last thing, the reason he's called A Second Opinion, he is both a doctor of acupuncture as well as a doctor of cardiology. So he is East and West. So welcome to the program, Radha.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Kim.
Thanks.
It's nice to be here.
So let's have a little about your background. How did you become, both East and West?
I grew up in Eastern tradition, so that was sort of natural for me. But then, more importantly, I ended up doing acupuncture after 2 years of medical school before I was molded into the Western system, as aligned with me growing up in Eastern tradition using Ayurvedic disciplines to treat.
Some people call that naturopath and all that stuff, right?
Right, naturopathy incorporates Ayurvedic traditions
Right.
into their treatment, yes.
So a lot of times people don't know the differences and all this. So it's more natural healing versus medical healing.
Right. You don't use any chemical or synthetic materials. You use all natural ingredients to treat yourself before the
You
disease
don't spray
takes
a
over.
Roundup on your cancer.
No. So I ended up doing an acupuncture training initially before even I finished medical school. And that shaped my thinking, being able to look at both sides.
So what did you find out? I mean, now that you're a cardiologist and all this, you're at Mount Sinai. One of the reasons the book's called A Second Opinion is other doctors have to come to see you before you can, let's say need a heart transplant or a liver transplant or a lung transplant. You're the doctor other doctors go to see. Is that correct? Because
Make sure
they
the
need your
heart's strong.
approval.
Right. The patients, before patients go for surgeries and other major interventional treatments, what you need to do is make sure that your heart is going to sustain such major intervention and it's in a good shape. So being a cardiologist, I end up seeing all the patients who require such treatments to what you call tell the other doctor, yes, this patient's heart is in good shape. They can go for the surgery, or look at them and then if I find out it is not in good shape, then tell them they cannot have the surgery.
It doesn't cost much money to be healthy, does it really, when you think about it?
Correct. It doesn't cost money to be healthy. But where it starts costing you money is once you become unhealthy, and then if you have to resort back to health and use the Western medicine, then you are going to spend a lot of money on this. And that's where the Western medicine is now quickly becoming a wealth care system.
So Radha, what's the fundamental difference between Eastern medicine and Western medicine?
The fundamental difference, other than using natural medicines as well as synthetic in Western medicine, I think the major fundamental difference is Western medicine tells you what to do. Eastern medicine, on the other hand, actually tells you how to be.
How to live,
how to be, and how to be healthy. So essentially, if you look at both of those, and as you know, Robert, you have mentioned this several times in your books and your teachings, for the importance of be, do, have. What comes before doing is being. That's what the Eastern medicine does. So it's more aligned with being healthy than Western medicine is. Where Western medicine plays a role is that if you have become unhealthy, it helps you to restore your health back to a point where you can then maintain it with Eastern medicine.
So once you have a physical ailment, once it becomes physical in your body, that's where Western would step in and say, okay, let's get that stabilized.
Absolutely. Western doctor is paralyzed unless you have a symptom.
Yeah.
If you don't come to me with a symptom, I don't know what to do with you.
So how does somebody be healthy?
Being comes in several ways. One is, lifestyle modification incorporates two areas. One is your emotional lifestyle and your physical lifestyle. Physical lifestyle is about eating, sleeping, walking, exercising. Emotional lifestyle is about thinking, how you react to stress, how you project yourself to the outside world, and how your internal dialogue within yourself, what you are talking to yourself. That's the emotional lifestyle. You need to concentrate on both of those types of lifestyles to be in a certain way to maintain the health.
So this is how it applies to me because, Kim is very, very healthy. She's very cognizant of it. And I've always struggled with weight. I love to eat. So this morning I got up and I'm going to go talk to Radha this morning on the radio, Dr. Radha Gopalan. And I said, I remember when we're going over your book, Second Opinion, you said you fast. And I went, fast? Not eating doesn't cost you any money. You know what I mean? It's one way for your body to cleanse your body. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely.
And what is fasting such an important health process rather than taking drugs? You know what I mean? What's the difference? Or a diet pill?
Well, let me. So when you take a diet pill to lose weight, what you're doing is you're putting another chemical into your body to influence your nervous system and your hunger stimulations to reduce.
It's actually emotional too. A lot of it, isn't it?
Most of the eating is emotional.
Yeah, I know. For me, it is.
Right. Emotional eating is the most common cause of obesity or overweight.
That's why diets don't work. It's not the food.
Exactly. It is not. You have to you have to reset the emotions so that you don't eat.
So today we're talking to Dr. Radha Gopalan. He's a cardiologist, associate professor of cardiology at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. And he's just released his book, A Second Opinion, 8 Deadly Diseases. One of them will probably get you, so pay attention, or get the book. And we're talking about the contrast between Eastern and Western medicine. And just to let you know, Dr. Gopalan doesn't hold that one is better than the other. They work hand in hand. Unfortunately, when people think about health, they think about medicine.
We know, everybody knows they're supposed to exercise and we're all supposed to eat better foods and healthier foods and more vegetables and things like that, but we don't always do it. Why do we not do what we know we're supposed to do?
The reason we don't do what we are supposed to do is because our actions are influenced by emotions. So eating is one of them. So emotions play a major role in what we eat. Think of it this way. If you want to go out to dinner tonight, and what do? We say, what am I in the mood for? Mm-hmm. And then we choose the restaurant. Right. We don't choose the restaurant and think, what is our mood? The mood comes first. So emotional eating is ingrained in us.
So if you say to me, Kim, you should eat more broccoli, more kale, less red meat, and I don't do that, why wouldn't I do that?
First of all, you won't do it because it's perhaps not satisfying, because you are a unique person. So the food that you eat that is going to align with you needs to be found out. So I will not be advising you eat these. I would tell you, Kim, find out what food is best for you.
How do I find that out?
The way you find out is what you need to do first, and this is what I advise to everybody, is you do a cleanse. A food cleanse. And then you introduce food that you have been eating one by one. And then watch what it does to your emotions. Your emotions. And your mood level. Two things to watch for. One, what does it do to your mood level? Does it bring it down or does it elevate the mood level? For example, if you have cleansed and you are adding back dairy, after eating dairy food, watch what your mood does. Do you feel down, lethargic, fatigued?
Or fuzzy in the head too, right?
Exactly. Or do you feel energetic and go out and get everything you need to get in the world? You keep adding food on a systematic fashion, then you have various foods that are aligned with you, and then that's your food type. It's a very easy thing to do. It doesn't cost any money. It might cost you money to do the cleanse.
But where do you find the cleanse?
There are several programs. One of the ones that I recommend is a 21-day cleanse that involves eating fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, no carbs, no alcohol, no caffeine, and no dairy, no nuts or legumes.
I guess that's it.
But it's only 21 days. After that, you can start adding back.
Well, that's when my addiction kicks in. I start screaming. What do you mean 21 days? I can't go through tonight. Da, 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 da.
I'll tell you why. 21 days has been scientifically proven is to be required. That duration is required for you to undo the connections you have made in your neurons in your brain to get rid of a habit. So if you want to get rid of a habit, you have to practice 21 days.
What we're really getting into right now is not so much weight or stuff like this. Number one is how you feel if you're overweight or eating bad food.
Right.
But secondly, there's consequences like diabetes and heart disease and all that. Is that correct? What happens if a person doesn't address the addiction, the habit?
If you don't address the addiction and if you have an eating problem and if you are gaining weight, you become overweight, then it progresses to obesity and morbid obesity. Now, interestingly, obesity is associated with not just diabetes. It also causes high blood pressure. It causes heart disease. It even causes cancer. So it has been associated with all these diseases. So if you have a way, first of all, start with what we have been talking about. You have an emotional eating problem. You get overweight and obese. And then what you're doing is you're laying the ground for the development of other diseases. Then all of a sudden we wonder why we have these diseases.
So if I understand correctly, you would say your philosophy would be to be as much on the Eastern medicine side, doing all these practices of meditation, cleanse, fasting, all of that. And then if a disease develops is where Western medicine kicks in?
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
So the more I practice Eastern, the healthier I should be.
Right. So Eastern helps you how to be, therefore you maintain health. And if for other reasons, environmental and natural disasters or toxins, other things that you ingest, that gives you disease, you use the Western medicine to restore back to where you were. And then you can go back to using Eastern medicines.
So the whole point here is this, that it costs, how much does it cost to treat diabetes, heart disease, cancer? Is that expensive?
It's very expensive. I mean, if you look at the statistics, I forget exactly how much. For example, if you have cancer, in America, we spend $200 billion a year.
Treating cancer?
Treating cancer. It is a $200 billion industry.
So, and how do
No wonder there's
medical
no cure.
doctors understand that Dr. Gopalan is both Eastern medicine and Western medicine? He's a cardiologist at Mount Sinai Hospital, also associate professor. So if I come to you with, let's say, cancer, how much am I looking at from a medical point of view?
If you're looking at expenses related to seeing the physician, taking the medications, that can be quite expensive, and it's going to be lifelong. So you're looking at hundreds and hundreds of thousands.
Or you could just fast for a couple of days.
Take a walk in the park.
You can do these Eastern traditions and maintain health so that you don't get to a point of developing a cancer.
So that's what Dr. Gopalan's book is about, A Second Opinion, The 8 Deadly Diseases. He talks about liver, he talks about the heart, he talks about the things that eventually blow out on us as human beings. But the thing I loved about his book is that Eastern medicine is about taking care of the person. So the person is strong enough to so-called ward off or fight or not be affected by disease. So you have a better chance of surviving in case you need Western medicine. So it's not either or, it's actually both. But think of it this way. If, like I said, I was on my way over for this interview, and I said, God, why do I feel like hell? And I said, because you ate too much last night. And I remember when I was reading Dr. Gopalan's book, he says he fasts. How often do you fast? Once a week or something?
Every Friday, yes.
Every Friday. And what? That doesn't cost me any money. You know what I mean? It costs me more money to go out to eat and drink that porterhouse and suck down that wine and then feel bad the next day, or I can fast. So this whole point here is this. There are things you can do to not be a victim of medical expenses. And you actually feel better, look better, and do better. Right, Kim?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I remember talking with you, Dr. Rada, about a family member, and we were talking about genetics because they had a history of throat problems.
Right.
And he decided, it was my brother-in-law, and he decided that he was going to have this operation because genetically it had been in his family. And you had a different take on genetics, just because if somebody is genetically inclined doesn't necessarily mean
they need to develop the disease.
Yes.
Yeah, I've come across hundreds and hundreds of patients who are genetically disposed to a disease. They don't manifest it. On the other hand, I have come across people who did not have any family history, no genetic predisposition, but they developed disease.
So how does that play into it? Because we all hear that, I'm genetically, disposed to have this.
Yes.
And do you talk yourself into it, or?
Pretty much. I mean, you said it in a very normal way. Yes, it is. Genetic dispositions are very strong influences of what happens to us. But at the same time, it has to be combined with the right, what I call internal dialogue, the conversation we have within ourselves. And then it meets and then it leads to an altered behavior. When those three come together, you develop the disease.
And that's what we're going to be going into next. It doesn't cost any money to fast. In fact, it saves you money.
Right.
You feel better. The second thing is Dr. Gopalan has really gotten Kim and I into meditation. And meditation is different than prayer. Prayer is you talking to God And meditation is God talking to you in silence. You know what I mean? You're not chattering away. You got
That's
to
where you
shut
control
up.
that little voice.
You got to shut up and listen to something, which is hard to do, especially when I'm trying to sleep or something. But when we come back, we'll be talking about, again, Radha's book, Second Opinion, 8 Deadly Diseases. But every disease has a voice to it. You know, it's talking to you. And if you don't listen to that voice, then you have problems. Or let me say it another way. You know, Oprah just invested in Weight Watchers, and that stock price went through the roof. And now everybody, oh, good, it must be the diet, it must be food that's causing me overweight. And you're saying, no, it's not really. It's that your conversation with yourself.
Yes.
And then you have Marie Osmond, who's a Nutrisystem, and they'll send you this diet, and you know, every day this box of food will line up on you, and you too will lose weight. Now that works for a while, but if you don't stop that voice, right, you'll go back to eating again. Would you say that's pretty much true?
Absolutely.
So once again, we're talking to Dr. Radha Gopalan's book, A Second Opinion. It's about health care versus wealth care. It's not one is right or wrong. It's how they work hand in hand. But the interesting thing about Eastern medicine, it doesn't cost you any money, and you feel a whole lot better, and you'll be better able to handle Western medicine if you need it. Right, Kim?
Yeah, and Robert, you're talking about these different programs that, you know, these different diet programs. And I think what you're saying, Dr. Radha, is you're still being told what to do.
Yes.
You're not finding out what really works for you. So you're not owning it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to do this because I know this works for me.
I love the way
Right.
Oprah said, I can eat bread. I can eat bread. I'm going, well, I guess that, you know what I mean?
Well, there is the problem. I mean, I think we all know that carbs are bad for
Right,
you.
right.
But the fact that you're making allowance for you to eat the same very bad food in a smaller quantity.
It's just, so they're just doing they're just doing smaller
just
quantities.
Look at Weight Watchers stock
Exactly.
price, man.
Yeah.
Just, hey, Radha, have you seen Weight Watchers stock price?
No, I
Whole stock market crash is crashing, but Weight
Weight
Watchers is going up because Oprah promises you can eat bread. You know what I mean? I mean, that's Western society today, isn't it?
Yep.
They
it's
want
absolutely.
they want the answer that's comfortable. They want the answer that's comfortable. Oh, I
that
love
fits our
comfort
logic
food. Yeah.
system.
Yes, it is the logic system. You look outside for answers to your problems, and in weight issues and in any disease, you want to look within yourself and see what is it that I'm triggering, and then that's much more durable than doing things.
So the beauty of Dr. Gopalan's book, Second Opinion, and all this, it's actually less expensive and healthier for you if you do things like fast. You don't have to go on this diet. Just don't eat. You know what I mean? And you'll feel better. So today we're talking to Dr. Radha Gopalan. He's our doctor of cardiology, also associate professor of cardiology at Mount Sinai. He's the author of Second Opinion, 8 Deadly Diseases. That will probably get you. So you should read the book if you want to find out more. And it's about Eastern and Western medicine. And it's not that one is against or opposing each other, is they both work hand in hand. The big point here is this: we're all complaining about health care. You got Obamacare, you got all this stuff. But it's not really health care, it's wealth care. And what Dr. Gopalan is saying, again, he's a cardiologist, and the health is possibly the most complex organ in our body, more complex in our brain. And if he can work on your heart, he knows, because that's where your energy, your love, your emotions are stored. But it doesn't cost money. From the Eastern medicine, health is free. You know, like we talked about, you can fast once a week. That must be tough for me. But it doesn't cost you any money to fast, but it costs me a fortune to go out for dinner and suck down that wine. And also, you got to control that little voice instead of the inner voice that says, yeah, go ahead and have that cupcake. That cupcake won't kill you. No, the cupcake won't kill you, but diabetes, obesity, and all that other stuff will kill you. So that's why it's really about meditation, and meditation is free. It doesn't cost you any money. Any comments, Kim?
Well, and it's, again, it becomes, we were talking about earlier, 21 days and the habits that you have to create. I also want to take it on
How about
another...
21 minutes? I can handle that.
I want to take it on the other side of things, because we're all about money and finances. And a lot of people are struggling today. A lot of people aren't where they want to be today. How does that struggle and that stress of not having the money you thought you were having, or if you're struggling financially, how does that impact your health?
So when you struggle with that thought, you are inducing fear within yourself. So the fear of not being protected. You might need money for protection. You might need money for
survival.
Survival. So
kids,
you feel your
education.
survival is threatened. So you're fearful, and you feel I need to be protected. And if you looked at the obesity chapter in my book, the internal dialogue for obesity is, I need protection. For example, look at it this way. When you hear about, if we get a media alert about a natural disaster, what do we do first? Every one of us run to the stores to stock up food.
Yep.
That's our basic instinctual reaction to the fear of not being able to survive. It ties in with obesity very well. This is the internal dialogue that we have developed. People who continue to get obese have developed that internal dialogue in them at some point in their life where they have felt their protection is lost or they need to be protected, and that continuously goes on and drives them for emotional eating.
Is that the same with addictions?
Yes.
So tell us how you do a lot. You tell us about meditation, but what is meditation? Why does it work for health?
Meditation works at the emotional level that we have been talking about. It works within yourself with how you can control or react to your own internal chatter. So what meditation does is when you are silent and observing your own thoughts, what you do is you watch the thought, but you are not allowed to react to it. So you observe it and you let go. So when you continue to do this for 20 to 30 minutes, it gives you the ability to meet your thought deeper and deeper. As you sit in silence, you are meeting the thought at a level that thoughts don't have enough power to cause an action in you. So when you can meet the emotions or the feelings and thoughts at a point where they don't have the power to influence you, you are able to handle the thought much better.
And a lot of people go, well, I don't know how to meditate. Where do you start? How do I learn how to meditate?
There are several programs available, but I think the one basic principle of meditation is doing nothing in response to your thought. In other words, you sit in silence, you close your eyes, and then you withdraw within yourself.
That's it. That's how you start.
But it's actually a moment to moment too. I've actually gotten better now when I have a thought that hits or something. I think, well, he doesn't like me. I'm going to lose money on this. It goes straight to my heart.
Yes.
Boom. And I'm now able to go take a deep breath. I don't try and fight the thought. I just kind of breathe through it and stay with the pain and the heart and all this, and it eventually goes away.
Exactly. It's letting go.
Instantaneous meditation almost now.
Exactly. It's letting go. So one of the interesting things that you begin to feel once you start meditating after a few days and weeks is that all the deep thoughts that you have had buried that has been troubling you will slowly start coming to the surface, and you will start seeing it. Once you see it and start letting go, that is your slow process of emotional cleanse. I speak about emotional cleanse in my book. And until you let go of all those buried emotions that's influencing and coloring your life, you're not going to be able to change the way you are.
And once again, it's Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. We're talking to Dr. Rada Gopalan. He's a cardiologist, associate professor of cardiology at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. His book, Second Opinion, 8 Deadly Diseases, is out. It's a combination of Eastern medicine and Western medicine. And because he's both, doctor of acupuncture as well as a doctor of cardiology. But the most important thing is that Eastern medicine is free. It doesn't cost you any money. And Western medicine, if you don't take care of yourself, can destroy you financially. And so those are the differences here. And once again, we've talked about how meditation is free. How fasting is free, how holding hands and walking is free. Those are the things that get you healthy.
And Rada, you've said this before, is that all the things, the number one thing that somebody could do to have better health would be to meditate.
Yes. I was asked once that, in one word, what is your answer to being healthy is meditate.
I have to, as a patient of Rod, I'd have to agree because it's been about 10 years he's been telling me that. And I still fight it because my brain, everybody thinks, my mind is my most important thing. Well, your mind is your enemy too. Your mind can tell you how to fix a tire, but it can also tell you how to drive off the road if you're not watching.
And it's also one of the differences, right, of Eastern and Western, because Eastern combines body and mind, where Western medicine separates them. So if somebody has, let's say they're depressed, they have depression, Western medicine treats it with a pill.
Well, what's funny is they're now, because of all this gun problems, they're now going to be looking for people who are depressed so they can find out what's wrong with them.
So more people are going to be depressed.
The more you look for something, the more you're going to find it.
Yes.
But you would treat, so from an Eastern perspective, how would you treat depression?
It's the way you treat depression in Eastern perspective is changing lifestyle modification. There are two components to this. One, with depression, you're doing things in your life that you regret or you don't want to be doing. Two,
Or you've done in the past.
Right.
And you keep reoccurring to you.
Exactly, and it has become a habit. The second is that you are feeling depressed within yourself. So two components. One is to the outside world, what you're doing, and what you're feeling inside. So when you meditate, you will start dissociating yourself from what you're feeling inside and start handling those buried emotions that you need to work with, and start handling them much more efficiently without attaching. Non-attachment is the result of meditation. Letting go is a result of meditation. When you accomplish those, then you will not be reacting to those underlying emotions as much as you used to react previously.
One subject that's on everybody's mind, or a lot of people's mind, is insurance.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of changes in the world of insurance. How has that affected you and what you do as a cardiologist?
A lot. 15 to 20 years ago, to treat a patient, I didn't have to think what insurance they carried. The insurance was not even in my radar screen. I make a plan of action for the patient. I tell them and instruct them what needs to be done, write a prescription, write an order, it gets done. Now, 15 years after, now I employ a nurse practitioner to take care of insurance issues. In other words, when I order a test, it is not approved by the insurance company. Now we need to figure out and type out materials and information justifying why I ordered this test to this person, and have I tried other things. Now it takes time, not the time that I spend with the patient. Behind the scene, my nurse practitioner and I are drumming up explanations, creating documents, talking to the insurance companies, begging them to approve this test.
And how much time what percentage of time does that take out of your...
Let me tell you, that takes more than the time I spend with the patient in the room.
So would you, if you prescribe something to a patient that you know is the best plan, could the insurance company come back and say, no, that's not what we want you to do?
Not only, yes, they could, and they do, and not only they do that, by the time I go to speak to the physician who makes the decision, most of the time they are not even cardiologists judging on a cardiology test that I have ordered. It could be a pulmonologist, it could be some other specialist who is telling me what I should order on my patient.
What do you think of Obamacare?
Obamacare initially came up as a affordable care, and it has not panned out to be. And we still have the same problem with Obamacare that we have with other insurance companies.
So it hasn't really solved the problem.
Has not solved the problem.
And is insurance making medicine better or worse?
Insurance, in my opinion, it's making medicine worse, yes. And I'm separating this. Medicine, health, two different things. But it is making medicine worse in that patients cannot get the medicine or the treatments or investigations they need without being hampered by or influenced by the insurance companies.
Especially the accountants tell you what you can do now.
Exactly.
Aren't there physicians breaking away from insurance?
Lots of physicians don't take insurance anymore.
But how do they get around, or how do they, I've heard they go into private, almost become self-insurance, and they take care of huge companies and stuff like this.
It is, yes. What has happened is some of the physicians have what they call concierge practices, where you can you become part of the program with the physician, and then you are taken care of for basic needs.
Oh, concierge. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would pay an annual fee, and I have that doctor
taking
available
care
to
of
me.
you. Yeah, they do the annual exams, testing, and everything for you throughout the year, and then be your private physician in that respect. The question comes when you need hospital expenses, what do you do with it? And you do in the system we have, you have to rely on the insurance to pay for those.
So is there such a thing as a best insurance plan for somebody?
The best insurance plan is not
Stay
to get
healthy.
sick. Yeah.
Very good.
Because our special guest today is Dr. Radha Gopalan. He's our personal physician. He's also a cardiologist and associate professor of cardiology at Mount Sinai in New York City. And he's not only a doctor of cardiology, he's a doctor of acupuncture, which is why his book, Second Opinion, 8 Deadly Diseases, is written about how you combine Eastern medicine and Western medicine. And the interesting thing about it is Western medicine will kill you financially, and most of Eastern medicine is free. So health is free, medicine is expensive. Any comments, Kim?
One of the great takeaways for me, and I always love talking to Dr. Radhagopalan, is if you stick with all what you're saying, Robert, the Eastern West practices of meditation, of cleanse, of just
Fasting.
taking a walk in the parks, all of that is free. And that's really where you want to focus. And it's when your body gets diseased, when something physical does show up in your body, that's where Western medicine comes in. And you hopefully never get to that point. But it takes some work, it takes practice, and it takes commitment. Yes, it does.
So we're now at the most popular part of our program. It's Ask Robert. So Melissa's going to ask some questions, and Dr. Gopalan has so gracefully agreed to stick around and help us with the answers to your questions for Ask Robert. Once again, you want to ask, if you want to have a question, go to AskRobert@RichDadRadio.com. First question, Melissa.
Our first question today comes from Freddie in San Antonio, Texas. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm a 25-year-old running a tech startup. I'm young and I feel like I have to drive myself now to make money while I'm young. My mom is always nagging me about my lifestyle. My question is, does living a high-stress life mean I'll have bad health as I get older?
Well, it sounds good to me, but what does Dr. Gopalan have to say? I like high stress. That's how I thrive.
Absolutely. I think you're both right. Your mother is right and you're right. And I think it is not about living a high-stress life. It's how you are reacting to that stress. The stress is good. Stress makes you grow, it makes you successful, and it makes you climb up in your life. But it has nothing to do with the stress. It has something to do with how you react to the stress. That's what I will pay attention to. How are you reacting to it? Are you getting bogged down by it? Or is it bringing your mood level down? Or is it elevating it? If the stress is making you more successful and elevates your mood level, you are on the right track.
Well, that's why Dr. Gopalan has Kim and I meditating now, which is really good, because when something stressful hits me, I generally take it in the heart. Some people take it in the stomach, you know what I mean, or they get headaches. We all take our stress in different parts of our bodies. So my stress goes straight to my heart, and when I catch that, I go into a quick mini meditation. I take a deep breath, I disengage, and I let the upset kind of just pass through. I let it go. I don't hang on it or dwell on it. Any comments on that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is about meeting your thoughts and your stress at a level where they don't have the power to influence you. And that is what the meditation does, Robert.
Right. Sometimes I have these really goofy thoughts, like Kim hates me, which is no. But I go, but the thought is there. It hurts my heart, and I could get upset about it and all this. I just take a deep breath, smile, step back, and breathe through it, not trying to suppress it or anything.
Right.
What else I found interesting is the word stress, because it's like everybody thinks stress is bad. Right. But you're saying there's good stress and there's bad stress. It's like we talk about debt. There's the difference. Everybody thinks debt's a 4-letter word, but there's actually good debt and bad debt.
Exactly.
It's the same thing you're saying.
Exactly. So that's exactly, absolutely correct, Kim. And I think you need to be able to differentiate between the good stress and the bad stress.
So, some people have migraines. That's probably stress too, right?
That can give you stress, yes.
Yeah. So I'm saying there's different ways of handling it other than medicine.
Yes.
Next question, Melissa.
Our next question comes from William in Bozeman, Montana. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. With millions of aging baby boomers facing an archaic healthcare system, what do you think the future will look like for the boomers in terms of healthcare?
I think we're in trouble personally, but that depends upon the boomer. The big problem I see when I talk to Dr. Gopalan is how we handle stress. Like for me is when I feel stress, you go to a bar or you go to a restaurant, you order a big steak and a couple of vodkas and some wine, and you feel better, right?
For that one moment, yes,
I feel better.
I'm
invincible.
So what is the future of that?
Well, I think one of the things that as you grow older, and what I come across most of the time is when it comes to living healthy and being healthy involves simple lifestyle things that you can do and you have the time to do. When you're younger, you're probably driving yourself to accomplish things in life and you don't have the time. But when you're older, you have the time. It always amazes me when I have patients that come to see me and I ask them, how many times do you exercise? And they tell me, well, I do it 3 times a week, And I said, how many minutes? 30 minutes. And I said, what do you do the rest of the day? You're retired? Yes, I am retired. What are you doing the rest of the day? Why not 45 minutes of exercise 5 days a week? It's the mindset. Why? Because all the recommendations here, 3 times a day, at least 30 minutes, is good enough for you. But good enough, is that good enough for you? Is the question to ask.
Next question, Melissa, for Ask Robert.
Our next question comes from Jessica in Durango, Colorado. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This question is actually for Dr. Gopalan. Jessica says, I know it's smart to eat well and I try to exercise. I always hear about buying organic. Do you think it's worth the extra money? Can't I just buy fruits and vegetables at the grocery store and still be healthy?
The answer to your question is yes. And I'm going to expand on this. Is buying organic, is it good? Yes, it is good, buying organic. Any food that is very close to the ground, has not been adulterated with chemicals and other toxins, including genetic modification, is the best for you. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend additional money to do that. You can still get good food by buying other grocery store vegetables, making sure you wash them, and then and limit your exposure to such food. It's about the quantity. When you think about buying food with adulterated chemicals, is how much are you putting into your body that the body can handle or cannot handle. The body has built-in abilities to excrete most of the chemicals, but it depends on how much, what quantity are you going to put in.
So let's go into what do you do when you fast? What is happening inside the body?
When I fast, what is happening inside the body is that I don't eat for 24 hours, but that means the body has nothing to absorb and no toxins are going in. That 24 hours is the body's time to get rid of the toxins. It now, without any other toxins going in, the body is able to eliminate what has been there once a week. I do it once a week. You can do it more if you want to, or less. It allows the body to get rid of the toxins, such as what you accumulate from eating regular grocery store food. Most of the time I eat regular grocery store food, but make sure that you wash it and you eat it. You allow the body to get rid of the toxins.
And what about GMO, genetically modified organisms, or what they call it? What is that?
The interesting part about genetically modified organisms, Robert, in this country, is that our legislators are even refusing to label food in our country as genetically modified. If you look at other countries such as European countries, they have even banned GMOs because of its association with certain diseases. Here we are still battling to even inform the consumer that this product that you are buying off the shelf is genetically modified. We don't even have that.
And the argument is, oh, well, there's so many people that need to be fed, so we need to create food that we can supply to everybody because the farming is disappearing. Is there any argument to that in your opinion?
Yes. Well, my opinion on that is, yes, we are feeding people and making them ill people.
Yeah.
What
happens to GMO? What does it do inside your body?
It has been shown to affect the function of the liver and also your ability to ward off diseases. So when you have genetically modified organisms, and it doesn't allow you to function, your cells to function as normal as they should. Those chemicals, the modified substances, affect the healthy function of the cells, and it leads to several
plus your organs in your body and all that. Then
yes.
So it's like taking in that Flint water, the toxic water from Flint, Michigan,
and having lead. Yes.
It destroys everything inside of you.
Correct. It gets sedimented. It attaches itself to tissues, and then slowly modifies the way those cells and the tissues function.
So I'm going to ask a totally different question, because you're talking about putting chemicals in your body and things like that. What about shots? What about flu shots? Should people get a flu shot?
Well, yes. I mean, this has been an ongoing controversial segment. I mean, as a Western physician, I get my flu shot because I deal with patients and I want to protect them in case if I had flu. So, but internally, do I want to get flu shot? I don't want to get flu shot. A couple of reasons. I'm not recommending you don't get flu shots. And if you are weak, if you have a chronic condition, then the recommendation is you get the flu shot. The question is, does the flu shot protects you 100%? The answer is no, because the vaccine you get on that particular year may not be against all the flu strains that may become available during that flu season. So you are protected to some extent, but it doesn't protect you from all the different flu that you can get.
So once again, it's Robert Kiyosaki. We're talking to Dr. Radha Gopalan. The book is out. It's Second Opinion, 8 Deadly Diseases. And we're talking about the combination of Eastern medicine and Western medicine, because Dr. Gopalan is both. He's a cardiologist, associate professor of cardiology at Mount Sinai, but also a doctor of acupuncture. And so he is Kim's and mine physician. But as we started this whole program, the most important thing about your doctor is, do the two of you or all of you agree philosophically of what medicine is? For example, I talk to many of my friends, they're toast. Man, they got, they smoke, they have cancer, they're taking all the other stuff and all this. I say, why don't you see a naturopath? Hell no. They want Roundup put on the cancer. But that's their belief. Would you say that that's best for them if they believe in just pouring poison on cancer is good?
Well, I'm not
if
sure.
That's your belief.
If that's your belief, then, that's what you're going to do. The question to ask is, does that belief come from the right internal dialogue, or is it coming from the wrong
There's so many
internal
people
dialogue?
are afraid. And the reason Kim and I are very happy we encouraged Dr. Gopalan to write his book, A Second Opinion, is so people can open up their minds and look at all their alternatives to health care rather than poisoning your system with chemicals called pharmaceuticals.
tôi xa quê bao năm tháng qua, nhưng trong trái tim không bao giờ xa. Lời mẹ ru con hiu hiu chưa hè, mùa lụt nước lũ bắt cá giữa đường, biển trời